All right, great. And we'll do our pledge. We can use Jeff's flag right there.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Never can get that synced. I don't know. We're always in different places.
Yeah.
All right. I hope this won't be too long a meeting, but as we look towards tomorrow evening, I figure that we need to get on the same page. I forward to you the various responses that I've gotten. Some of them raise some very good points. The tone of one or two of them I wasn't particularly crazy about, but we'll overlook that at the moment. I'd love to start off by just getting some feel from committee members as to where you think we're at. I see Jeff's hand up right away. Go ahead, Jeff, jump in.
Yeah, I saved my comments email. I'm kind of in this, the past couple meetings, to be honest, I've been slowly, building this up and, really frustrated and, challenged by, the town has ignored this problem for so long. Our teachers, our Dr. Solon and the people involved have expressed how important it is. And I feel like we're constantly being derailed and slowed down for whatever, personal agendas there are out there. And the responses to this survey, particularly, I found them incredibly disheartening and troubling. And I thought it was yet again another area where, people that either didn't want the survey or for whatever reason want to slow this process down are being, out of line. Some responses I thought made some valid points, for the length of the survey, agreed. But, we've hired a firm, we've all voted on to agree Jerry's firm to do this. They clearly have way more experience than any one of us or collective group of us in this process, and we should trust them in that process. I don't agree at all that presenting scenarios or anything to the town is wrong and unwarranted. On one breath, we always scream about transparency and people want my emails and we want, notes and chat comments and everything else. And then on the next breath, well, we shouldn't be telling the public about, what's going on. And, I find that to be just hypocritical. And I apologize if I'm going off on a tangent here, but I was pretty ripped when I was reading all of it. Sorry, I'll end on that.
Anyone else, Jim?
Yeah. So can we just address the length thing right off the bat? And then we can go back to some of what Jeff was saying and some of our other comments. But I think that I thought we were always kind of working under, based on the survey we have, we were working on like a 15 to 20 minute completion time. Is that where we're at, Jerry, or is it longer?
So Jim, I don't know where that comes from either. I haven't heard that kind of expression about length in a while. I was telling Richard today, our surveys range from 15 to 20 minutes usually. We do 45-minute surveys all the time. This is a 10-minute survey. 20 questions equates to 5 minutes. We've talked about that before. This is not a long survey. What's happening is what happens with a lot of our clients is that those that are commenting about length are very, very busy people. And they don't realize that there are people in town that want to voice their opinion, that love to contribute and would welcome an opportunity to talk about a topic as important as this. So we expect, as we do in almost every community across the country, to have above a 75% completion rate. And that's not even to say the other 25% refuse. They'll be off at some soccer game or for some reason aren't able to do the survey. But we expect a high completion rate, especially at the lower end in length of any one of the surveys we're conducting every day, including our online surveys. So I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's another reason that they're adding to object perhaps, but we don't hear that about a 10-minute survey very often.
And someone said to me, someone that I got some feedback from said to me, well, the only people that are going to complete the survey are, the really old folks that have nothing else to do. And the survey is going to be skewed. Can you talk about how, I mean, you guys don't have quotas. I know we talked about that, but you are going to complete the survey in a way that you get a broad spectrum of respondents.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for that to happen. I mean, for example, you have probably about 16% of your population is above 65. That's about what's going to happen with the results to your survey. I'm talking about the 400 sample now, the statistically important survey.
Right.
But we pull sample. I know you're going to get these questions, and just I don't want to belabor this, but the way we pull sample is we pull it by census group, block, track level. So we're pulling proportional to geographic contribution town-wide. And we pull that sample and we make up to 8 callbacks to that number because we want to include that phone number that we selected in the sample. Now that could be a 40-year-old or it could be a 65-year-old, but it should be reflective and representative of the community. And all of our surveys are. That's the black magic of research, a truly random sample selection process of phone numbers gives you a reflective sample in the end. That's what will happen. It happens in every municipal survey that we do. At the end, we're watching our monitors very carefully. If we have 18% over 65, then at that point, we'll make some decisions. But that almost never has to happen because of proper sampling.
The people who choose to do the online survey, now that won't be statistically valid. That's just anyone who chooses to jump in.
Yeah, once you get up into the hundreds of respondents on the online survey, you can ascribe a margin for error to it. But honestly, it's not a random sample. So we can't really state that that's truly reflective. We just don't know who's going to make the effort to go and, it's a self-selected survey. The phone survey, we select the respondent to participate at random. Online, that's not the case. But again, like we talked about, every time we do this and have a sister online survey running side by side with the phone survey, results are pretty much identical. The one we just finished recently for the city of Boulder in Colorado, phone and online were within 1 or 2 percentage points in the results. So yours may not be that way. And that's why I did ask you about any opposition groups, because they may, if they existed and you said not yet, or not the case.
It's not outside of the School Modernization Committee.
So they may send people to the survey to complete it in the way in which they'd like to see it completed.
Is it normal for these school surveys to be this length?
Yes, a lot of municipal, but longer, 15, 20 minutes. A lot of times, I would say the most of municipal surveys are 60 questions, which is 15 minutes.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm fine with the feedback that we got. Other than, I wanted to kind of clarify the length, which seems to be a big issue with a lot of people. But I think that's just because they kind of haven't been as close to this maybe as we have been to this point. But just for the group here, I mean, I think one of the reasons we wanted to do this was it was going to be a tool to start to inform the public about the process, or start to inform the public as to the reasons why we need to do school modernization and the reason why. Or at least, that plus the options was why we were doing the survey. The only issue the only concern that I've had is kind of always been the timing of when we get the information, and whether or not it's going to kind of inform our decision making as a committee, as an SMC on the proposal we go forth with. And it seems like timing wise, we're not going to have this information in time for that. And I think that's some of the pushback we're getting is because of that.
And that's been an issue right from the beginning, Jim. When we first brought it to the committee, everyone will remember this went to the full SMC. They agreed that we were going to do a survey and approve the contract, send it to the town council who approved the contract. When we first talked at the school modernization, there was some difference of opinion about when it should be done. Now, Jen Bates, in talking to me, said, I really would like to do it as soon as we can. I'd like to get the information in while we are still making decisions about what the options are. We pushed that timeline as much as we could and came up with an initial timeline of getting the report in on March 1st, which was right about the time that the committee was going to be going to the town council with their final choice or two. We've now pushed beyond that in terms of our original schedule. So we're into March if we went ahead right away. So in terms of it giving us data on what choices we should make, it may be too late. And that may be a rationale for holding off a little while and doing it a little bit later. As you mentioned, there's several, purposes. One is the people who fill it out do get a more of an inside look at what's going on. But the other piece too, and Kate really brought this up early on, was giving us some good statistical information about the various subgroups that are out there and the issues that they have and how we can address those as we head towards a November referendum. Kate?
Yeah.
So my thinking was, when it came to the timeline, because it is going to be so late now, that the feedback on that question 25 about the scenarios, like in the beginning, I thought we really should gauge that information, but now that it's coming so late, although I didn't like the tone of the emails, I do agree that maybe just that financial tolerance idea is what maybe we should be asking instead of, specific scenario information. I think it's important at our meeting tomorrow that we're very clear with people that 20 questions is 5 minutes. So this is a 10-minute survey. I mean, like, they're looking at that one question that's open-ended and they're seeing all those responses as if they're being read to them.
Right.
So that they're viewing it very, very differently from how it's going to look when it's online and how it's going to be given orally. So it looks like all these pages, but really it's a click, 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 and I think there might be some misunderstandings about that. So I think the length, we can support that, but I really think we need to have some hard discussions about that question 25 and what to do with the scenarios and come up with something that we all feel really strongly about and agree on before we bring it to the full committee tomorrow.
Well, Jerry will be at our meeting tomorrow. So he's able to go through and talk about the process, the different groups that we'll be doing, the timeline, all that. So I think that piece we can address. I think the questions 17 and 18 were just a matter of some wording. Those are dealing with the full day kindergarten and the special ed. Just a matter of people who were involved with that reading it and saying, I think this is, not clear as to exactly what that is. A little bit of adjustment on the wording and we're fine. The question really becomes, well, two part. One is, how detailed do we want to get in terms of the different scenarios or phase one projects that we're looking at and their cost? And secondly, do we want to move ahead with the survey right now? Do we want to put it on hold, wait until after we have our final choice, and then go out? So that would be, maybe mid-March, something like that.
I've always struggled with the need to hold this survey, when the sooner we get this information, the better it would be for us to delineate and, analyze the data. It's not, we don't take surveys and get a yes or no. We take all of the data the survey gives us and helps us make more informed decisions. I think, unfortunately, we're past the point, because of the pushback, to use the information from the survey. And I'm on Kate's point here about the options. Maybe it's too late for that, because there's really not going to be much we can do with that information once we get it. But I would be completely against holding the survey off even more. When the sooner we get that information, the better. And even if we don't have the exact financial numbers, my response to the group would be, we're never going to have those exact financial numbers. We are so far away from knowing what it's going to cost. We have ranges, we have estimates, and that gives us, some information that we can use. But to say that, Mr. Jascott's going to be able to give us the exact amount that my mill rate is going to go up when they don't know how much it's going to cost to pave a road next year, let alone a school in 5 years, is just completely unreasonable. But we got some very good data, some good information that we could use, and the sooner we get that back from the public, the better. I do think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, are you done, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm done. Sorry.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. The only, I mean, I've been like, let's do it now for a while too. The only thing that I'm thinking about as an argument for putting it off a little bit now would be, we have some more time to educate the public before they have to answer these questions. And that's been a concern of mine. That's what I said, I think last time we met, is the public really ready to answer these questions? If we were to put it off a little bit, we'd have some more time to talk more about the reasons we're doing this and what, the process we've been through to get to this point, so that would be my only argument as to putting it off a little bit. So take that as you will, but I agree. I think we do need this information. It does need to happen at one point or another. As far as the financial pieces or the fiscal pieces of it, I mean, I was kind of thinking along the lines last time we talked that, having it sort of, be agnostic and having it just be sort of numbers and checking people's tolerance was maybe the way to go. But then I agreed with Kate and what she said as far as, no, we really need to have some context with those numbers and people need to understand what they'd be getting. And I have to agree that that's probably the case. I don't think just throwing a number out there, whether you're looking at 53 or 40 or 35, and most of us are gonna be like, yeah, let's do 35, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't really help us that much.
And if you remember, that's how we got where we are. We originally, the first draft said, would you be willing to approve whatever it was, $250 a year, $200, and it went down until you got to a number. But we said, well, just throwing a number out there doesn't mean anything. You got to know, what are you getting for that number? Now, keep in mind, I mean, there are a lot of assumptions built into the numbers that we put out there. It's built on the average cost that Colliers has given us for the construction. And those, I'm not certain how accurate those are. Then it's built on, the average house assessment in town. It's built on the average of a 4% bond over 20 years, which can range tremendously from one year to the next, but we just took that average. Now, I mean, the numbers that we do have been checked by Jim Jascott, and he's approved them. At least the calculations he's approved. But there's a lot of assumptions built in there. They're not, exact. And I know somebody like Sylvie is just very concerned if you put numbers out there and they're not done in the context of everything else that's going on. Are you misleading the public in some way? And I can understand that. She would like to hold off clearly and, potentially have the final project and its cost, locked down and then go out, which we would have to at some point in time. My other concern is what will happen at this meeting tomorrow. We know that there are a few members, not everyone has stood up, but we know that there are a few members and a couple who I think have expressed some fairly strong opinions. And I don't know if we go out to the public with a survey at the same time that the newspapers are saying, gee, there was some real disagreement on the committee about even doing this thing, and here's the issues that they had or whatever. Does it undermine the entire survey?
So,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Kate.
So when I think of the timeline, I think it's almost irresponsible for us to go forward, make a plan, present it to the town council, present it to the board without ever having asked the community. I feel very uncomfortable with putting it off. I think we've put it off. Like when I first came on the committee in, October, I think the first meeting I said, we have to do a survey. We have to find out what people think. And here we are in January talking about putting it off. Like I feel very strongly that we need to do this sooner rather than later. And if the full committee is uncomfortable with the question 25, then maybe we don't include it. Maybe we just look at all of those other elements, those other questions that are in there about what are you thinking about the schools and how are you connected to the schools and how are you maybe all of those other questions are going to give us some really good usable information. And maybe we should wait on those financial numbers until we have a plan. That's kind of what I'm thinking when it comes to the timeline.
So I completely agree with what Kate just said. So I won't reiterate my feelings exactly. You know, my argument against 25 is I know that's going to be a contention in the group, or that we don't have land as well will be a contention. But, you know, at some point we're going to have to vote on a decision, you know, and the public is already aware of all these scenarios. So it's not like we're putting something out in a survey. And I guess that's what was troubling is like, oh, we're jumping the gun here with the public. No, I mean, we should have had this information 2 months ago. So I would vote to keep that information in there, but in an essence for the greater good, then yeah, I would be fine with taking it out.
There is a difference. We keep talking about question number 25. 25 just asks which of the three scenarios that are on the table right now would you most like to see? And then 26 starts going into the financial piece. So you potentially could keep 25, which says the following three different scenarios for modernizing. It lists the three and it says which one would you prefer to happen. And then 26, 27, whatever after that goes into the cost of each one. And if that's the big issue, that the numbers aren't absolutely locked in, we could leave 25 and say, you know, as a person out in the community, what would you like to see? And then lop off the financial piece, which is still, you know, being determined.
Yeah, I would support that too. The one thing I won't support is us delaying, and you know, we've delayed way too much.
The only problem I have with putting out the scenarios is that we're continuing to work over the next 6 weeks while, you know, Jerry and his company are collecting the data, and we could change those, you know, and then we're getting information about a question that is no longer relevant to us. That's my only concern with the scenario part. But you're right. I was referring to the financial questions that, you know, I just think where we are as a full committee and the feedback that we've gotten, I think our best bet is just to remove those questions for now.
I'm not certain how far we're going to get tomorrow. I know that Jim Jascott's supposed to be presenting the financial piece for these scenarios at our meeting tomorrow. It's possible that one or more of these could get lopped off and we could end up with one or two scenarios going forward by the end of the meeting tomorrow. I'm not certain.
Yeah, I think the financial piece, no matter what, is going to be an arbitrary best guess. And most people are going to understand that there's no way with certainty we're going to know what it's going to cost to build a middle school 5 years from now. You know, or 3 years from now, whenever it happens. So we're giving ranges.
So Jeff, can I just add that a lot of our clients, even the clients that have actually decided on their scenario and actually have that in mind, whether it's a new pool or the renovation of the library or a new school, they'll still use that middle dollar range as their best guess, because there will still be that high school that they could or don't have to add a pool to, or an enhancement to the library or an addition that they hadn't planned on. So of those $3 amounts, oftentimes they'll put their very best guess as the middle option. Mm-hmm. So that allows the municipality to know, oh, we could win a referendum at the higher dollar amount. So why don't we do these 5 things that we hadn't planned to, or they were on the side? And then the option, of course, below the best guess is the lowest option. And if that's going to be successful in a referendum, they need to know that too. So,
well, thank you.
Sylvia had at one point, I don't know if you have hers in front of you, but she had, I don't know if she was recommending or she had just written down a question. How comfortable would you be with a total annual tax increase, including school modernization, increasing town services, blah, 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 blah of, and then, number one, 240 per year or 20 per month, 480 per year or 40 per month. So, she had a question like that dealt with the financial piece rather than getting into the cost of each project. It, just talked about, what would now, I don't know how people would react to those kind of numbers if they don't tie them to anything in particular. If they don't see, gee, I'm getting a new middle school out of that for, $400 a month or whatever. And that was the reason I think we originally tried to tie it to the individual projects.
I think one thing that we've done, so far is really our comments have really kept the focus on the schools, what we're doing to improve the schools. We really haven't muddied the waters with how much it's going to cost. And that's my concern with leaving those questions in, is all of a sudden the conversation is going to shift away from what's best for Cheshire Public Schools onto I can't afford it, it's going to cost too much. And we might inadvertently generate some negative energy in the community by jumping too early into the financials. Maybe we should just focus this survey on modernizing the schools and leave the
Take all the
financial
financial stuff out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I've thought a lot about, the devil's advocate side to that is somebody saying, well, if I knew it was going to be $50 a month or $500 a year, I would have never said that I was okay with that plan. My gut would say that the more data we get, the better. But yeah, I definitely, can understand that side of it. People start hearing.
It'd be nice if
I
we had
I
the
know that-
ability to do 2 surveys. You do one now, and then after we choose, a final thing, you go out and get a sense of, who feel, how they feel towards the particular dollar amounts.
I know that Dr. Solon has said to us a couple times, at least about, I think the survey done in Groton, where there was asked if people would be supportive of a $40 a month increase, and I think it was supported pretty widely. So I think that's partly why we've kind of gone down this path of trying to get some kind of feel for the tolerance level. I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm totally on board with removing it, but I certainly hear the arguments for doing so.
I would just add that 3-4 years ago, as soon as we put the dollar value to the project as a whole, the first phase, whatever, as soon as we put a dollar amount to it, that's all that was discussed. So Kate, you're kind of right. And to some extent, I think it might be better once we have the entire town on board with the fact that we are doing something, so that it's not just the Board of Ed that comes on board. It's got to be the town council. Everybody's got to be on board. And the minute you start talking about money, it tanks a lot. It tanks a lot of the discussion about what needs to be done and what's the best project.
Jerry, can I ask if you've done a survey for schools where you did not include a piece about the cost?
Yes, often, and not only schools, but just a broad support opposition in general before any discussion about cost. How strongly do you support or oppose modernization of schools, or the new high school, or the renovation of a middle school?
Okay.
So they have an idea of people's inclination, even though you haven't told them how much it's going to cost. And they left it at that. Others go on to say, okay, you've said you support the new high school in town. This is what it's going to cost. How do you feel now? Worded differently, but they take it the next step. But not everyone does that.
Yeah.
I feel that 3 years ago, I really wanted the project to go to referendum just so we could see what the town's appetite was going to be for that dollar amount for that project. And the town council wouldn't let it go even to referendum. And so we never found out. But that would have been so valuable. That information would have been so valuable whether it passed referendum or didn't, which it probably wouldn't have, but we would have had a really good idea of the numbers that supported it.
Yeah, the only thing I don't know, I'd be curious to see when Jim Jascott does his numbers, whether he's also taking a look at closing some of the schools and some of the savings that we can generate, which hopefully says to the public, look, it's going to cost you money, but we're also working to save money. That could adjust these numbers that we're putting out there. These are just straight. If we were to build the school and you have an average house in town, here's how much it would run you just for that bond. But it may be that, over time, if the grand list grows, if we have some other savings, that it wouldn't actually cost that much. And that could be something that could be communicated as we get into June, July, August, whatever.
I mean, there's also tens of millions of dollars in the next 5-year capital improvement plan for the schools coming from the Board of Ed. So you'd be removing some of those costs, I believe. So
yeah, eventually.
And
Yeah.
my other issue with the cost is we don't even have a piece of land. We don't even know where it's going. We don't know if that land is going to cost us something or if we can use an existing piece. And I don't know, like asking people, it's going to cost this much without really having a good idea. I just think we really need to dial back a little bit on that piece.
All right, so it sounds like we have an agreement then to remove the questions that deal specifically with the cost of the projects, which would be, questions 26 through 31. What about question 25 that specifically says, here are the 3 projects, which one would you be in favor of? Should we leave that or not?
I would leave it. That's my vote or opinion.
I would like to remove it because I think there's still a lot of uncertainty when it comes to those. And I think we're going to get a good idea about what people's priorities are from our other questions and it's going to raise a lot more questions. So if you're doing this, then what happened? Like all the questions we've been talking about. Then are we going to renovate a high school? Are we going to build a new one? What's happening second? Where do the kids go? Like, I just think it's going to muddy the waters about what our priorities are as a district.
Well, that was Tony's concern when he wrote his comments, is that, people are focusing only on the phase 1 project, and he's hearing from people, I would assume, really heavily from the high school saying, what about us? Why isn't that, at the top of the list? So he wanted to make sure whatever we did, that we did not give the opinion that, we were focusing only on phase 1 and then, stepping away.
yeah, if we leave the scenario questions in there, I guess then this basically becomes kind of a referendum on the scenarios. And that may not be helpful.
I agree.
Well, shouldn't we have a better idea tomorrow night? What
So,
scenarios are
We
really
might.
viable?
We might, yeah.
We might, but we might not. And I think we really need to go forward with the survey.
So
Regardless.
I think this subcommittee is in agreement that we are going forward with the survey.
Yeah.
Speak up if you're not of that mind. And so it's just a matter of what are we taking out to satisfy the concerns?
Well, what I'm hearing so far is that we will do some revision to questions 17 and 18 based on the concerns that were raised, that we will eliminate questions 26 through 31. The question 25, we might want to get a sense of what the committee is able to do tomorrow before we make a final decision on that. If they are down to even one final thing or something like that, we could meet the day after, finalize that question. If it's still fuzzy, then maybe we want to consider eliminating 25 also.
So if we do include 25 and there's only one option, couldn't we go into all of the phases
We could.
and show people where the high school is going to be?
Well, I think that should be outside the survey and come through our form of blast communications and things like that. You know, I just over the survey will just be focused on the questions. But yeah, it might make that question answered itself.
Right.
And if
Yeah,
we're
so
not in
Jer-
agreement on 25, like, I would like to eliminate it. You know, obviously everybody else doesn't want to, but if we're split on question 25, maybe we should just bring it to the full committee for a vote and see, you know.
Well,
if it's
I will say that if the committee has any sort of pushback, I don't feel so strongly about 25 that should hold up the survey going out. I would be completely support if the committee is washy on that at all tomorrow, then we eliminate it to move forward. I think the greater good of the survey far outweighs that one question.
I agree with that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's fine. So Jerry, now that we've made this survey so much shorter,
This is going to be a 4-minute survey.
are there any questions that make some sense that maybe we you know, given our new focus, is there any questions that you maybe have used before that you might think we should add in?
Yeah,
Not 10 questions, just like a question or two.
yeah, I would still recommend that, not price related, but as you just keep the support opposition heading there, and just generally, do you support the idea, the notion of modernizing Cheshire schools? Just so that equips us to do those crosstabs we've talked a lot about, but also gives us the ability to profile that likely supporter, the likely opponent as well. So just a general question, without knowing dollar figures, generally, do you support the modernization of Cheshire schools? Because they've already gone through 24 questions that are related to modernizing and improving the schools. So it'd be a good juncture to ask them, okay, what do you think in general?
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, and then it ties into question 32 about what would you need to support it?
Exactly. And after they say strongly support, we could have an open end there. Why? Why do you oppose? Why do you not? And then question 31, as you say, is a little bit more, even more detail on what do you need to hear?
All right, so it sounds like we are in agreement then to eliminate question 25.
Good.
All right. All right, so it sounds like, Jerry's got a question or two he can add in. We need to redo 17 and 18. We'll eliminate 25 through 31. And if possible, if we can get a draft 5 put together by tomorrow morning, or by noon tomorrow, and get it out to the committee to say, okay, here, based on your input, is, the final draft. Hopefully that will deal with some of the issues. I mean, we had at least one person who just said, I am against doing it at this time. But, you're not going to please everybody, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And when we do like our other social media, I'm kind of feeling like we should stay away from talking about the scenarios and the money in our posts. If people are interested in that, they really should be watching the full meeting so they get that full piece of information, but giving to them in little snippets, I think is just gonna, raise people's emotions without having all of the information. So I'm hoping we can kind of like do what we've been doing, like talking about the facts. What is the situation at the high school? What is the enrollment like in elementary? Like really stick to those things that are going to help educate people and not sort of inflame them.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned to you the letter to the editor that I had queued up for my next one was originally written all about the high school. But, I adjusted it now to say, okay, here's the issues with the high school. Why aren't we starting with the high school? Because of these enrollment issues. But that doesn't mean that that's not on the docket. So I think that's the kind of thing we want to get out there in our letters to the editor, the stuff that we're putting on Facebook. If we could just keep focusing on the needs of each of the schools, the handicap issues, the safety issues, some of these kind of things. Don't worry, when we get closer and closer to referendum, the dollar piece will become more and more focused upon by people in town.
I
The
think
other
one-
thing that,
Sorry,
sorry,
Jim.
the other thing that I think might change might change the survey again is I think the OSCGNR meeting is tomorrow, right? So we might get
That's
some,
right.
we
They're
might
meeting,
get, yeah,
I think it's tomorrow morning with the state.
yeah. That may also, I'm sure it'll have some impact on the structure of the survey to some extent, I would think, but I guess we'll see what they say.
We do have, I mean, I talked to Jerry about it today, and, we do have the option of pushing this off some more if we need to. So if we get into tomorrow and there's still some questions, our next meeting is on March 1st, which is what, next Monday. We could continue to make some adjustments and get it to the committee on Monday instead of Wednesday. It's only a few days different if it means getting it approved.
So I just had to go look at my calendar, Rich,
Yeah.
because you put us a whole month, you took a month off of my life.
Yeah, he meant February.
You meant February 1st, right?
February 1st, that's right.
Holy guacamole.
I'm sorry. I'm stuck in the house in a pandemic. Every day's the same as every other day. So what can I
Who
say?
doesn't want to skip February anyway?
Hey,
I would
my
skip
birthday's in
February right now.
February. My
I'll
birthday's
let
coming
you
up.
know.
I have a curriculum committee meeting on my birthday,
Oh, happy birthday. What day is that?
the 8th. I
Oh,
think it's a Monday this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so the first would be a Monday. So
So
we
If
do have
anyone
a
wants to
meeting.
drop cake by my house, you can
You
just
know,
leave it on the front doorstep and text
I'm
me.
going to give you an aha. I turned 70 this year. My wife turned 70. We had made plans to go to Paris for a week, and because of the pandemic, had to cancel it. So that's my birthday wish. I sat at home.
Yeah, I turned 50 this year and we had our 25th wedding anniversary this summer and went nowhere and did nothing. So
It's
I
going to
feel
be
your
one of
pain.
those things we look back at and say, "Remember when?"
Yeah.
I was supposed to get my 30th, our 30th year anniversary trip, and did
Nothing.
not happen.
Nothing. But we keep saying we just want to stay healthy and safe, and then we'll do all those things. So
Right.
we're working.
Everybody out there's got their little violins out right now.
All right. Okay. I know people have got other meetings and stuff. So let me just very quickly go over everything. We're going to work on the wording for 17 and 18 based on the input that we got from Tony and from Sylvia. We are going to eliminate questions 25 through 31. And Jerry is going to take a look at adding a couple of other questions in there. And then in terms of the length issue, that's something that Jerry's going to deal with tomorrow. We obviously have cut out a number of things to begin with. Plus, he was projecting even with the full survey, we were only looking at a 20-minute survey. So,
But we need to cut nip that in the bud too, because there are people out there who are making comments as if they know all about running a survey, and they don't.
yeah.
Jerry's firm knows how to do a survey. They know how long it takes, and they're the experts. And for people to make comments like they know how it's all going to work is,
Yeah. I was taken aback by some of the comments.
If you want me
and
to be the
tone
one
of
to
some of
say,
those
no, you're wrong, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. Keep in mind, we
somebody-
did open up this committee to everyone. I started off by sending a note out to every single person, and Ann was the only one who wasn't on our communication group who said, I want to be part of it. But every single person could have been part of this design rather than waiting until it was all done.
Well, they didn't need to be part of it because they already know how it all works.
Oh, is that how that is? Okay. So if the way I've summarized it is okay with everyone?
Richard,
Yes.
could I just ask that, can you and I set a timeline of maybe 10 o'clock if you could get us the wording for 17 and 18?
Yep.
And then once we get that from you, we'll insert it and then turn that around to you by about 10:30 tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't think 17 and 18 are difficult to reword. It'll only
Okay.
take me a few minutes.
Okay.
It's just a matter of, making sure that it's clear that we didn't double all the number of classrooms for when we went to full day kindergarten, and that we didn't bring all the special ed kids in, that we did save money, that by bringing some of the kids in, we utilize some space. They just want to make sure that those two pieces are a little clearer, that's all. So I think those will be quick. I can probably do that as soon as we log off from here.
Great.
We all set, everyone?
Yeah, good job.
A motion to adjourn,
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
seconded. All those in favor?
All
All
right.
right, thank you all. We'll see you
Thank you.
7.